The text messages were still open on Derek's laptop when I walked into our home office. I had only come in to grab my phone charger, nothing more. But there they were, rows and rows of messages to someone saved as B from work, with heart emojis I had never received in years. Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. She suspects nothing. Just a few more months and I'll figure out how to leave her. My hands shook as I scrolled through months of conversations. Pictures of them at hotels I recognized from Derek's supposed business trips. Plans for a future that didn't include me. Discussions about how I was too focused on my career, too independent, not affectionate enough. I heard Derek's car pull into the driveway. My heart hammered in my chest as I stood there, frozen, his laptop still displaying the evidence of his betrayal. 7 years of marriage, and this was what it had become. He walked through the door, loosening his tie, completely relaxed. He didn't even notice me standing in the office doorway at first. "Derek," I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening inside me. He looked up, startled. Then he saw the laptop in my hands, still open to his messages with Brooke. His face went through several expressions in quick succession. Surprise, panic, calculation, and then something that shocked me even more, annoyance. "Camille, I can explain," he started, but there was no urgency in his voice. No real remorse. "Explain?" I held up the laptop. "Explain 6 months of messages? Explain the hotel receipts? Explain planning a future with your coworker while I'm at home thinking we're building a life together?" Derek sighed, actually sighed like I was being unreasonable. He set down his briefcase and ran his hand through his hair. "Look, every man cheats. It's just nature. It doesn't mean anything about how I feel about you." The words hit me like a physical blow. "Every man cheats," said with such casual certainty, such complete belief that this was just how the world worked. "Are you serious right now?" I stared at him, this man I thought I knew. "You're actually trying to justify this?" "I'm being realistic," Derek said, his voice taking on that condescending tone he used when he thought I was being emotional. "Men have needs. Variety is natural. You're my wife and that's important. But expecting me to only be with you for the rest of my life? That's not realistic in today's world." I felt dizzy. This wasn't an apology. This wasn't remorse. This was a philosophy, a worldview he apparently held and expected me to accept. "How long have you believed this?" I asked quietly. "Always." He shrugged. "My father did it. My friends do it. It's just what happens in long-term relationships. Women get comfortable and men need excitement. You need to accept it and move on." "Move on." My voice rose despite my attempt to stay calm. "You want me to just accept that my husband is having an affair and continue like nothing happened?" "It's not an affair. It's just something on the side," Derek said as if this distinction mattered. "You're overreacting. I come home to you. I pay the bills. What more do you want?" I looked at this man, really looked at him, and realized I had never truly known him. Or maybe I had, and I'd been ignoring the signs for years. The way he talked about other women. The way his friends spoke about their wives when they thought the women weren't listening. The way he always made me feel like I was asking for too much when I wanted basic respect and attention. "I want a divorce," I heard myself say. Derek laughed. Actually laughed. "No, you don't. You're upset right now, but you'll calm down. Where would you even go? This is your home. I'm your husband. You'll get over it." The confidence in his voice, the absolute certainty that I would stay, that I had no choice but to accept his betrayal, sparked something in me. Something that had been dormant for too long. "Watch me," I said. I walked past him, grabbed my purse and phone, and headed for the door. "Camille, don't be dramatic," Derek called after me. "Come on, let's talk about this like adults." I turned back to look at him one more time. He was leaning against the doorframe, completely relaxed, absolutely certain I would come back. In his mind he had already won. Women stayed. That's what they did. That's what he believed. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "You believe every man cheats. I'm about to show you that every woman can leave." I walked out the door, got in my car, and drove away from the house we'd shared for 7 years. In my rearview mirror, I could see Derek standing in the driveway, watching me go with that same annoyed expression, like I was throwing a tantrum over nothing. He thought I'd be back by morning. He thought I had nowhere else to go. He thought I needed him. He was wrong on all counts. I drove to my best friend Nicole's apartment in the city. She opened the door in her pajamas, took one look at my face and pulled me inside without a word. I collapsed on her couch and finally let myself feel everything I'd been holding back. "He cheated," I managed to say through tears. "He's been cheating for months with someone from his work." Nicole sat beside me, her hand on my back. I'm so sorry, Camille. That's not even the worst part, I said, looking up at her. He said every man cheats. He expects me to just accept it and stay married to him like nothing happened. Nicole's face hardened. He actually said that? I nodded. He thinks I'll go back. He thinks I have no choice. Do you have somewhere you can stay while you figure things out? Nicole asked. I can stay here for a bit, right? I looked at her hopefully. You can stay as long as you need, Nicole said firmly. But Camille, you need to know something. My cousin went through a divorce last year. Derek's right that you probably feel like you have limited options right now. But you have more power than you think. First thing tomorrow, we're calling a lawyer. I nodded, wiping my tears. My phone buzzed. It was Derek. Stop being childish and come home. We need to discuss this properly. I stared at the message. Even now, he was trying to control the narrative, trying to make me feel like I was the problem. Block him, Nicole said, reading the message over my shoulder. You don't owe him any more conversations tonight. But I didn't block him. Not yet. Instead, I opened my phone's notes app and started writing down everything I could remember. Dates of his supposed business trips. Times I had found receipts that didn't make sense. Conversations where he gaslit me into thinking I was overreacting about his late nights at work. If Derek thought I would just accept his betrayal and his twisted philosophy about marriage, he didn't know me at all. Or maybe he never had. I had spent 7 years trying to be the perfect wife, supporting his career, managing our home, putting my own dreams on hold. And his response was to cheat and tell me it was natural, that I should just deal with it. No more. If every man cheated, as he claimed, then every woman had the right to leave. And I was going to exercise that right in the most absolute way possible. I looked at Nicole, who was making tea in her kitchen, and I felt a strange sense of clarity despite the pain. I'm not going back, I said. Good, Nicole replied, bringing me a mug. You deserve so much better than someone who thinks respecting you is optional. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Derek. You're being ridiculous. I'll give you tonight to cool off, but this conversation isn't over. I set my phone down and looked at Nicole. Tomorrow we call that lawyer. And I want the best one you know. Already texting my cousin for the name, Nicole said, her fingers flying across her phone screen. As I lay on Nicole's guest bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I thought about Derek's words. Every man cheats. Such a simple sentence, but it revealed everything about how he saw the world, how he saw me. He saw me as someone who would accept anything. Someone who had no choice but to stay because leaving would be too hard, too complicated, too scary. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those messages, heard his casual dismissal of 7 years of what I thought was a real partnership. But mixed in with the pain was something else. Determination. Derek had made a critical mistake. He had underestimated me. He thought I was weak, dependent, trapped. Tomorrow I would start proving him wrong. Tomorrow I would begin showing him that every woman doesn't have to stay. Every woman doesn't have to accept disrespect. Every woman can leave. And I was going to walk away from him so completely, so thoroughly, that he would spend the rest of his life regretting those 4 words. Every man cheats. I woke up on Nicole's couch to 17 missed calls from Derek and a string of messages that ranged from angry to apologetic to manipulative. I didn't read most of them. Instead, I focused on the business card Nicole had left on the coffee table. Patricia Moore, family law attorney. She's the best, Nicole said, bringing me coffee. She helped my cousin get everything she deserved. Derek won't know what hit him. I called the number at exactly 9 o'clock. Patricia's assistant scheduled me for that same afternoon, apparently sensing the urgency in my voice. Meanwhile, Derek kept calling. Finally, I answered. Camille, thank God, he said. I've been worried sick. When are you coming home? I'm not, I said simply. There was a pause. What do you mean you're not? Don't be ridiculous. You live here. I live there, I corrected. Past tense. I'm filing for divorce, Derek. Over one mistake? His voice took on that wheedling tone he used when he wanted something. Baby, I said, I'm sorry. Let's talk about this. You didn't say you're sorry, I pointed out. You said every man cheats and I need to accept it. Those were your exact words. I was defensive, Derek said. I didn't mean it like that. Come home and we'll work through this. No. Camille, be reasonable. You're throwing away 7 years over nothing. Nothing? My voice rose despite my intention to stay calm. You've been having an affair for 6 months. You have hotel receipts, messages planning a future with her, and when I confronted you, you told me to accept it. That's not nothing. Fine, I made a mistake, Derek said, his tone shifting to irritation. But divorce? That's extreme. What about our life together? What about everything we've built? What have we built, Derek? Really? I asked. A house you picked? A life centered around your career? A marriage where you think cheating is acceptable? I'm trying to apologize here, he snapped. You're not making this easy. I'm not supposed to make it easy. You broke our marriage, not me. Where are you staying? Derek asked suddenly. Are you at Nicole's? I'm coming over so we can talk face to face. No, you're not. And if you show up here, I'll call the police. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I hung up and immediately blocked his number. My hands were shaking, but I felt stronger than I had in years. The meeting with Patricia Moore changed everything. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude that immediately put me at ease. Tell me everything, she said, pulling out a legal pad. I told her about the messages, the affair, Derek's casual dismissal of my pain. His belief that every man cheats and I should just accept it. Men like him are all the same, Patricia said, making notes. They think their wives have no options, no power. They're always shocked when we prove them wrong. Can I really get a divorce this quickly? I asked. We've been married for 7 years. You can file immediately. How long it takes depends on whether he fights it and how complicated your finances are. Speaking of which, let's talk about assets. What do you and your husband own together? I listed our house, which was in both our names, our cars, our shared accounts. As I talked, I realized how much of our life had been built around Derek's career and preferences. The house was in a neighborhood convenient to his office. The cars were models he had chosen. Even our furniture reflected his taste. And your income? Patricia asked. I work as a marketing consultant. I make about $60,000 a year. Derek makes about $120,000. Any other assets? Inheritance? Trust funds? Investments? I shook my head, then paused. Actually, wait. My grandmother passed away 5 years ago. She left me something, but Derek always handled the finances, so I'm not sure exactly what. Patricia's pen stopped moving. You're not sure what you inherited 5 years ago? Derek said it wasn't much. He said he put it in a savings account for us. For us, or for you specifically? She left it to me, I said slowly, a cold feeling settling in my stomach. Just to me. Patricia leaned forward. Camille, I need you to find out exactly what your grandmother left you and where that money is right now. Today. Do you have access to your financial accounts? Some of them. Derek always said he was better with money, so he managed most of our finances. That needs to change immediately, Patricia said. Here's what you're going to do. Go home when Derek is at work. Gather every financial document you can find. Bank statements, investment accounts, tax returns from the past 7 years. Everything. Also, take pictures of everything valuable in the house. Jewelry, electronics, anything you want to claim is yours. Won't that make things worse? I asked. Camille, things are already as bad as they can be. Your husband cheated on you and expects you to accept it. Now we need to make sure he hasn't been hiding assets or spending your inheritance. This isn't about being vindictive. This is about protecting what's rightfully yours. I left Patricia's office with a list of tasks and a sense of purpose. Nicole offered to come with me to the house, and I gratefully accepted. Derek's car wasn't in the driveway when we arrived at 2 in the afternoon. He'd be at work for at least 3 more hours. I used my key to let us in. The house felt different already, like it belonged to a stranger. I went straight to Derek's home office, the same room where I'd discovered his messages. His laptop was gone, but his filing cabinet was still there. Here, Nicole said, pulling out her phone. I'll take pictures of every document while you look through them. What I found made me sick. There were bank statements for accounts I didn't know existed. Investment portfolios in Derek's name only. And then, buried in the back of the cabinet, I found documents related to my grandmother's estate. She hadn't left me a small amount. She had left me $250,000. And according to the documents, that money had been placed in a trust specifically for me, managed by a financial advisor named Robert Chin. There was a letter with contact information, dated from 5 years ago, that I had never seen. Nicole, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Look at this. She read over my shoulder and let out a low whistle. Derek told you it wasn't much? He said she left me about $10,000 and he put it in savings for us. I rifled through more papers. Where is it? Where's the account information? We searched for another hour. There was no record of that money anywhere in Derek's files. No trust documents. No contact information for Robert Chin. Nothing. He hid it, Nicole said. He hid your inheritance. My phone buzzed. I had forgotten to block Derek's work number. Where are you? Why aren't you home? I didn't answer. Instead, I called the number on the letter from my grandmother's lawyer. Robert Chin speaking. Mr. Chin, my name is Camille Jackson. I believe my grandmother, Dorothy Williams, set up a trust for me about 5 years ago? Mrs. Jackson, yes. I've been trying to reach you for years. Your husband kept telling me you were traveling or busy and would call me back. My stomach dropped. What do you mean you've been trying to reach me? The trust your grandmother set up has very specific terms. You were supposed to meet with me to sign documents and set up access to the funds. Your husband said he would relay the messages, but I never heard back from you. Eventually, the trust has just been sitting there, growing with interest. How much is it worth now? I asked, my hand gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. With interest and growth over 5 years, approximately $320,000. The room spun. $320,000. Money my grandmother had left specifically for me, to give me security and independence. Money Derek had hidden from me for 5 years. Mr. Chin, I never received any messages from you. My husband lied to both of us. I'd like to schedule a meeting as soon as possible to access my trust. Of course. I'm so sorry this happened. Can you come in tomorrow morning? After I hung up, I sat in Derek's office chair, staring at the papers spread across his desk. 5 years. For 5 years, he had hidden a substantial inheritance from me, money that my grandmother had left specifically to ensure I would be taken care of. This changes everything, Nicole said softly. She was right. With that money, I didn't need Derek for anything. I could afford a good lawyer, a place to live, time to figure out my next steps. The inheritance my grandmother had left me was her final gift, a safety net she had provided because she loved me. And Derek had kept it from me, probably hoping to control it himself, to keep me dependent. Keep taking pictures, I told Nicole. Every document in this office. And then we're taking my personal belongings and getting out of here. We worked quickly, documenting everything. I packed my clothes, my laptop, my grandmother's jewelry that Derek had always discouraged me from wearing because it wasn't modern enough. I took my books, my photos, everything that was truly mine. As we loaded the last box into my car, my phone rang again. Derek. Camille, I know you're at the house. The security system alerted me. What the hell are you doing? Taking what's mine, I said calmly. You can't just come in here and take things. They're my things, Derek. My clothes, my personal items. We need to talk about this. You're being irrational. I'm being very rational, I said. More rational than I've been in years. And Derek? I know about my grandmother's trust. All $320,000 of it. There was a long silence. I can explain that, Derek finally said, his voice tight. I don't want your explanations anymore. I want a divorce. You're making a huge mistake. You'll regret this. The only mistake I made was staying with you as long as I did. Goodbye, Derek. I hung up and looked at Nicole. Let's go. As we drove away, I felt lighter than I had in years. Derek had built his life on the assumption that I had nowhere to go, no resources, no options. He had hidden money from me to keep me dependent. But my grandmother had made sure I would be okay. She had left me a way out, even from beyond the grave. Derek thought every man cheats and every woman stays. He was about to learn that every woman can leave, especially when she has the resources to do so. And I was going to make sure I left so completely, he would never have the chance to hurt me again. The next morning, I sat in Robert Chen's office in downtown Seattle, Nicole beside me for moral support. The office was warm and professional, with certificates on the wall and a stunning view of the city. Mrs. Jackson, Robert said, shaking my hand warmly. I'm so glad you finally reached out. Your grandmother was a remarkable woman. I wish I had known about this years ago, I said. My husband never told me you were trying to contact me. Robert's expression darkened. I suspected something was wrong when I never heard back. Your grandmother specifically set this up to be in your name alone, completely separate from any marital assets. She was very clear about that. He pulled out a thick folder. Let me explain what she left for you. The initial amount was $250,000, which was placed in a diversified investment portfolio. Over the past 5 years, with market growth and careful management, it's now worth $320,000. I stared at the number on the paper, still barely able to process it. Your grandmother also left a letter, Robert said, handing me an envelope. She asked that I give this to you when you came to access the trust. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a letter in my grandmother's distinctive handwriting. My dearest Camille, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and you've found your way to Mr. Chen. I hope it hasn't taken too long. I'm leaving you this money not because I think you need it to survive, you're smart and capable. I'm leaving it to you because every woman should have choices. Every woman should have the freedom to walk away from anything or anyone that doesn't serve her. I stayed in an unhappy marriage for 20 years because I thought I had no choice, no way to support myself. By the time I realized I could leave, I had wasted 2 decades of my life being small to make a small man feel big. Don't make my mistake, sweetheart. Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you're trapped. You're not. You never are. This money is yours and yours alone. Use it wisely. Use it to build the life you deserve. Use it to be brave when bravery is required. I love you always, Grandma Dorothy. Tears ran down my face as I read. Nicole squeezed my hand. She knew, I whispered. Somehow she knew I might need this. She was very insistent about the terms of the trust, Robert said gently. She wanted to make sure it could never be considered marital property. It's entirely separate from your husband's assets. What do I need to do to access it? I asked. Just sign these documents and I'll transfer the funds to an account in your name. I'd recommend a new account that your husband has never had access to. I signed the papers with a sense of surreal relief. This money represented freedom, independence, the ability to leave and never look back. As we left Robert's office an hour later, I had a new bank account with $320,000 in it. Money Derek didn't know about. Money he couldn't touch. Money my grandmother had left specifically to give me choices. What are you going to do? Nicole asked as we sat in a coffee shop, both of us still processing everything. First, I'm going to find a place to live, I said. Then I'm going to focus on my career. Derek always made me feel like my consulting work wasn't important compared to his corporate job. I want to build something real. You could start your own firm, Nicole suggested. You're brilliant at what you do. You've just been hiding it because Derek couldn't handle you being successful. She was right. I had been playing small for years, taking on freelance clients here and there, never pushing for bigger contracts because Derek didn't like it when I traveled or worked late. He wanted me available for his schedule, his needs, his career. No more. Over the next 2 weeks, I found a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment in a modern building downtown. It had floor-to-ceiling windows, sleek finishes, and most importantly, it was entirely mine. I signed the lease using my inheritance, paying 6 months up front so I would have time to build my business without worrying about rent. Derek tried calling from different numbers, but I never answered. He sent emails that ranged from angry to pleading. Patricia forwarded them all to her office without responding. Let him spiral, she said during one of our meetings. Men like him can't stand losing control. The more you ignore him, the more desperate he'll become. And desperate people make mistakes. She was right. Within a week, Derek's emails became increasingly unhinged. He accused me of abandoning our marriage over nothing. He claimed I was being selfish and dramatic. He threatened to fight the divorce. But he never once mentioned my grandmother's trust. That meant he either didn't know I had found it, or he was planning to claim it somehow during the divorce. Can he? I asked Patricia. Can he try to take my inheritance? He can try, Patricia said. But inheritances received by one spouse are typically considered separate property, not marital assets. Especially in your case, where the trust was specifically set up to be in your name alone. He has no legal claim to it. While Derek was busy sending angry emails, I was busy building my future. I reached out to former clients and colleagues, letting them know I was now available for larger projects. I created a website for my consulting business, something I had always wanted to do but Derek had dismissed as unnecessary. Within 3 weeks, I had landed 2 major clients. A tech startup needed help with their marketing strategy, and a nonprofit needed a complete brand overhaul. Both projects would pay well and add impressive names to my portfolio. I also reconnected with friends I had lost touch with over the years. Women I had pulled away from because Derek didn't like them or made plans difficult. They all welcomed me back with open arms, and several admitted they had been worried about me during my marriage. He was always so controlling, my college roommate Tasha said over lunch. The way he would text you constantly when we were out or show up to pick you up early. We all saw it, but you seemed happy. I thought I was, I admitted. Or maybe I just convinced myself I was because leaving seemed too hard. And now? Tasha asked. Now I feel like I can breathe for the first time in years. 1 month after leaving Derek, I stood in my new apartment, unpacking the last box. My laptop was set up in the second bedroom, which I had converted into an office. I had client meetings scheduled for the next 2 weeks. My bank account showed a healthy balance. And most importantly, I felt like myself again. The woman I had been before Derek, before I started shrinking to fit into his idea of what a wife should be. My phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from Patricia. Derek has officially been served divorce papers. He's demanding a meeting to negotiate terms. I've scheduled it for next week. Be prepared, he's going to try to manipulate you. Stay strong. I read the email twice, then set my phone down. A meeting with Derek. The first time I would see him face to face since I walked out over a month ago. Part of me was nervous, but a bigger part of me was ready. Ready to look him in the eye and show him that I was no longer the woman he could control. I was no longer the wife who would accept "every man cheats" as a reason to stay. I was the woman my grandmother had believed I could be. The woman with choices. The woman who was brave enough to walk away. Derek thought he had all the power in our marriage. He thought I would come crawling back, desperate and dependent. He had no idea that my grandmother had given me the greatest gift, freedom. And I was going to use it to build a life so good, so fulfilling, so completely mine that I would never look back. Every woman can leave. And I was about to show Derek exactly how far I could go. The conference room at Patricia's law office felt cold despite the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. I sat on one side of the long table with Patricia beside me, her legal files neatly organized in front of her. Across from us, Derek sat with his attorney, a middle-aged man named Frank who kept checking his watch. It had been 6 weeks since I left. 6 weeks since Derek had seen me face to face. When he walked into the room, I saw the shock register on his features. I looked different. I had gotten my hair done, invested in a new professional wardrobe, and most importantly, I carried myself differently. No more hunched shoulders. No more apologetic posture. "Camille," Derek said, attempting a smile. "You look good." I didn't respond. Patricia had coached me on this. Don't engage emotionally. Keep it professional. Let the lawyers do the talking. "Shall we begin?" Patricia said coolly. Frank cleared his throat. "My client is willing to consider a reconciliation." "My client is not," Patricia responded immediately. "We're here to discuss the terms of the divorce, not to negotiate the marriage." Derek leaned forward. "Camille, can we just talk? Without the lawyers?" "No," I said simply. "Come on, this is ridiculous. We've been married for 7 years. You're going to throw that away without even a conversation?" "We had that conversation," I said, my voice steady. "The night I found out you'd been cheating for 6 months. The night you told me every man cheats and I should accept it. Remember?" Derek's jaw tightened. "I told you I was defensive. I didn't mean it." "You meant it," I said. "You absolutely meant it. And that's why we're getting divorced." Frank interjected, "Let's discuss the assets. The house is in both names, purchased during the marriage. My client proposes selling it and splitting the proceeds 50-50. "Agreed," Patricia said. "What about the vehicles?" "My client keeps his car, Mrs. Jackson keeps hers." "Agreed. Joint accounts should be split equally." "With one exception," Patricia said, pulling out a document. "Mrs. Jackson's grandmother left her an inheritance 5 years ago. That money is separate property and not subject to division." I watched Derek's face carefully. His eyes widened slightly. So he had hoped I wouldn't find out about the trust. "What inheritance?" Frank asked, looking at Derek. "Her grandmother left her some money," Derek said dismissively, "but it was deposited into our joint savings. It became marital property." "That's a lie," I said calmly. Patricia put a hand on my arm, a reminder to stay cool. "The inheritance was placed in a trust specifically for Mrs. Jackson," Patricia said, sliding documents across the table. "It was never deposited into any joint account. It remained in a separate trust managed by a financial advisor, Mr. Robert Chin. My client's husband deliberately withheld information about this trust from her for 5 years." Frank scanned the documents, his expression darkening. "Derek, is this true?" "I was protecting our assets," Derek said. "She would have spent it." "It wasn't yours to protect," Patricia said coldly. "It was Mrs. Jackson's inheritance, specifically designated as separate property. You had no legal right to keep that information from her." "How much are we talking about?" Frank asked. $320,000, Patricia said. Derek's face went red. "There's no way it's worth that much now." "It is," I said. "And it's mine. Not ours. Mine." "This is absurd," Derek said, standing up. "You're being vindictive. You're trying to punish me." I'm trying to get divorced, I corrected. You're the one who tried to hide money from me. Frank held up a hand. Derek, sit down. Mrs. Jackson is correct. If this inheritance was left specifically to her in a trust, it's not marital property. We have no claim to it. Derek sat back down, but I could see him fuming. This wasn't going the way he had planned. Are there any other assets we need to discuss? Patricia asked. My client has concerns about Mrs. Jackson's consulting income, Frank said. She's been taking on new clients. Any income earned during the marriage should be considered when determining support. Mrs. Jackson's business grew after she left the marriage, Patricia countered. My client was actually suppressed from taking on larger projects during the marriage because of her husband's demands on her time and attention. Her current success is entirely due to her own efforts after leaving. I never stopped her from working, Derek protested. You told her not to take the Chicago contract last year because you didn't want her traveling, I said quietly. That contract would have been worth $50,000. That's not the same as stopping you, Derek argued. It's exactly the same, Patricia said. And it demonstrates a pattern of control. Mrs. Jackson has significantly more earning potential now that she's free to pursue opportunities without interference. We went back and forth for another hour, negotiating the smaller details. Derek fought me on everything from who got the coffee maker to who would keep the wedding photos. It was petty and exhausting, and it made me realize how much energy I had been wasting trying to keep him happy. Finally, Patricia said, I think we have enough to draft a preliminary agreement. We'll send it to your office by end of week, Frank. As everyone stood to leave, Derek grabbed my arm. Camille, wait. I pulled away. Don't touch me. Just give me 5 minutes. Please. I looked at Patricia, who nodded slightly. 5 minutes. I'll be right outside. Once the lawyers left, Derek and I stood on opposite sides of the conference table. The silence stretched between us, heavy with everything unsaid. I miss you, Derek finally said. You miss having someone to control, I responded. That's not fair. I loved you. You loved having a wife who didn't challenge you. That's not the same thing. I made a mistake, Derek said, and for the first time he actually sounded sincere. I know I hurt you. I know what I did was wrong. You think sleeping with Brooke was the problem, I said. It wasn't. Or not just that. The problem was that you thought you could do it and I would stay because you believe women have no choice but to accept whatever men do. I don't believe that, Derek protested. You literally said, every man cheats and I should accept it. I was trying to justify what I did. I was wrong. You were honest, I corrected. Maybe for the first time in our marriage you were completely honest about how you see relationships. And now I'm being honest too. I don't want to be married to someone who thinks that way. People change, Derek said desperately. I can change. Maybe you can. But I'm not going to stick around to find out. I deserve better than waiting for you to become a decent person. Is there someone else? Derek asked suddenly. Is that what this is really about? I almost laughed. Of course he would think that. Of course he couldn't imagine I would leave just for myself. There's no one else, I said. This is about me choosing myself for the first time in 7 years. So that's it? 7 years and you're just done? I was done the moment you told me every man cheats. Everything since then has just been me following through. Derek's face hardened. Fine. But don't expect me to make this easy. If you want a divorce, you're going to fight for it. I'm already fighting, I said. And unlike our marriage, this is a fight I'm going to win. I walked out of the conference room without looking back. Patricia was waiting in the hallway. How do you feel? She asked. Good, I said, and I meant it. Ready to move forward. Over the next 2 weeks, Frank and Patricia exchanged emails negotiating the final terms. Derek fought everything out of spite, trying to claim furniture I had bought before we were married, demanding I pay half of his legal fees, even trying to say I should give him some of my inheritance because he helped manage our finances. Patricia shut down every attempt. He's grasping at straws, she told me during a phone call. He knows he doesn't have a legal leg to stand on, but he's angry that you're not playing by his rules. Finally, 3 months after I left, we reached a settlement. The house would be sold and the proceeds split 50-50. We would each keep our own vehicles. Joint accounts would be divided. And most importantly, my inheritance would remain mine alone. The day I signed the final divorce papers, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Patricia smiled as she witnessed my signature. Congratulations, she said. You're officially free. That evening, I stood in my apartment looking out at the Seattle skyline. I had been separated from Derek for 3 months, but it felt like years. So much had changed. My consulting business was thriving. I had hired a virtual assistant and had a wait list of potential clients. I had reconnected with old friends and made new ones. I had started going to a gym not to lose weight but because it felt good to be strong. Most importantly, I had learned something crucial. I didn't need Derek. I never had. My phone buzzed with a message from Nicole. "Drinks to celebrate your divorce?" I smiled and texted back. "Absolutely." As I got ready to go out, I caught my reflection in the mirror. The woman looking back at me was someone I barely recognized from 6 months ago. She was confident, successful, happy. She was the woman my grandmother had known I could be. Derek had said every man cheats. He had expected me to stay, to accept, to shrink myself to fit his version of marriage. Instead, I had left. I had rebuilt. I had thrived. Every woman can leave. And I had proven it. The divorce was final. My new life was just beginning. 6 months after leaving Derek, I sat in a WeWork conference room, presenting a marketing strategy to my biggest client yet. The CEO of a rapidly growing tech company leaned forward, nodding as I explained my vision for their brand expansion. "This is exactly what we need," she said. "When can you start?" "Immediately," I replied, and meant it. This contract would be worth 6 figures. More than I had made in the past 3 years combined. After the meeting, I called Nicole from the elevator. "I got it," I said, unable to keep the excitement from my voice. "I knew you would. This calls for celebration." "Can't tonight. I have another client dinner." "But this weekend?" "Absolutely. I'm so proud of you, Camille." As I walked through downtown Seattle toward the restaurant where I was meeting my next client, I reflected on how much had changed. My consulting business, which I had officially named Elevation Consulting, had grown faster than I'd imagined possible. Part of it was luck and timing. But a bigger part was that I was finally able to pursue opportunities without someone telling me I was being too ambitious, too focused on my career, too much. My phone buzzed. A blocked number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Camille." Derek's voice hit me like cold water. "How did you get this number?" "I need to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. The divorce is final. Please just hear me out. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. I want another chance." I stopped walking, standing on the corner of 5th and Pike. Around me, Seattle moved at its usual evening pace. People heading home from work, tourists taking photos, street musicians playing for tips. "Derek, we're divorced. We can fix that. People get remarried all the time." "I've changed, Camille. Really changed." "What happened to Brooke?" I asked, curiosity getting the better of me. There was a pause. "That's over. It was over a long time ago. She wasn't who I thought she was." I almost laughed. "Did she cheat on you?" "It doesn't matter. What matters is I realize now what I had with you. I threw away something real for something meaningless." "You're right about that," I said. "But it's too late, Derek. I've moved on." "Have you met someone else?" His voice took on that familiar edge of jealousy. "That's none of your business." "So you have. Who is he?" "Someone from work." "Goodbye, Derek." "Wait, please. Just meet me for coffee. One conversation. That's all I'm asking." "No. You owe me that much." "I don't owe you anything," I said firmly. "Don't call this number again." I hung up and immediately blocked the number. My hands were shaking slightly, not from fear or sadness, but from frustration that he still thought he could manipulate me. The truth was, I hadn't met anyone else. I had been too busy building my business and rediscovering who I was outside of my marriage. Dating wasn't a priority, and I was perfectly content with that. But Derek couldn't imagine a woman being happy alone. He assumed I had left him for someone else because in his worldview, women only left when they had another man waiting. He couldn't comprehend that I had left for myself. My client dinner went well. The nonprofit's director was a woman named Janet who reminded me of my grandmother. Smart, no-nonsense, and deeply committed to her mission. "We've been struggling with our messaging," Janet explained over appetizers. "We do important work, but we're not reaching the people who need us most." "Tell me about your mission," I said, pulling out my notebook. Janet's organization helped women transition out of abusive relationships. They provided housing, job training, legal advocacy, and emotional support. As she talked, I felt something click into place. This wasn't just another client. This was work that mattered. Work that aligned with my own experience of leaving and rebuilding. "I want to help you," I said. "And I don't just mean as a consultant. I mean really help. I've been where your clients are. I know what it's like to leave everything and start over." Janet's eyes softened. You left an abusive marriage? Emotionally abusive, yes. And he cheated. When I confronted him, he told me every man cheats and I should just accept it. What did you do? I left. Used my grandmother's inheritance to start over. Built this business from nothing. I gestured at my briefcase, my professional attire, the confidence I now carried. 6 months ago, I was sleeping on my friend's couch wondering if I'd made a huge mistake. Now I'm here doing work I love, completely independent. That's exactly the story we need to tell, Janet said. Not just me talking about the work we do, but women who've been through it sharing their experiences. Would you be willing to be featured in our marketing materials? I hesitated for only a moment. Yes. If it helps other women see that leaving is possible, that rebuilding is possible, then absolutely yes. That night, I got home to my apartment and sat on my couch, looking around at the life I'd built. It wasn't perfect. I still had moments of loneliness. I still sometimes woke up in the middle of the night anxious about money or the future. But it was mine. Completely, utterly mine. Over the next few weeks, Derek continued trying to reach me. He sent emails to my business account that I marked as spam. He sent flowers to my apartment building, which I refused to accept. He even showed up at my office building one day, but security escorted him out when I called them. He's getting desperate, Nicole observed over lunch. That's actually kind of scary. He's realizing he lost control, I said. And he can't stand it. Patricia advised me to document everything. If he escalates, we may need a restraining order. But slowly, Derek's attempts tapered off. I later heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd been demoted at work. Apparently, his affair with Brooke had violated company policy more seriously than I'd realized. He'd given her preferential treatment, promotion she hadn't earned, access to information she shouldn't have had. When their affair became public during our divorce, his company had investigated and found multiple ethics violations. I felt no satisfaction hearing about his professional troubles. Mostly I felt nothing. Derek had become irrelevant to my life. My business, meanwhile, kept growing. The tech company campaign I developed exceeded all their expectations. The nonprofit work with Janet's organization became deeply fulfilling. I hired 2 part-time employees to help with the increasing workload. One afternoon, I was reviewing contracts in my apartment-turned-office when my doorbell rang. I checked the camera and saw a man I didn't recognize holding a clipboard. "Can I help you?" I asked through the intercom. "I'm looking for Camille Jackson. I have a delivery. You can leave it at the door. I need a signature." Warily I opened the door. The man handed me the clipboard and I signed for what turned out to be a large package. Inside was a beautiful bouquet of flowers with a card. My first thought was that Derek had found a new way to harass me. But when I opened the card, it was from Janet. "Thank you for sharing your story. You're helping more women than you know. Janet and the team at New Horizons." I set the flowers on my dining table and smiled. This was what my life was now. Meaningful work, genuine connections, appreciation for who I was rather than who someone wanted me to be. That evening as I was preparing dinner, Nicole video called. "Guess who I ran into today?" she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Who?" "Derek's friend Tyler. And guess what he told me?" "What?" "Derek's been telling everyone you left him for another man. He's been playing the victim, saying you had an affair and that's why you divorced him." I set down my knife. "He's doing what?" "Rewriting history. Making himself look like the injured party." I took a deep breath, feeling anger rise in my chest. Then I remembered something Patricia had told me. Living well is the best revenge. Let him tell whatever story he needs to tell. Your success will speak louder than his lies. Let him say whatever he wants, I told Nicole. The people who matter know the truth. Aren't you angry? I was angry 6 months ago. Now I'm just tired of him taking up space in my thoughts. He's not worth my energy. Nicole smiled. Look at you being all mature and healthy. I learned from the best, I said, thinking of my grandmother. As I went to bed that night, I thought about Derek's claim that every man cheats. I didn't believe that anymore if I ever truly had. I'd met good men through my work, men who respected their partners, who believed in equality and honesty. Derek's philosophy said more about him than it did about men in general. But more importantly, I'd learned that it didn't matter whether every man cheated or not. What mattered was that every woman had the right to leave when she wasn't treated with respect. I had exercised that right. And in doing so, I'd found something Derek never thought I'd have: genuine happiness. The kind that came from within, not from another person's validation. 7 months after walking out of our house, I was thriving. My business was successful. My friendships were strong. My relationship with myself was healthier than it had ever been. Derek had expected me to come crawling back. Instead, I had walked forward into a life he couldn't have imagined for me. Every woman can leave. And every woman can build something beautiful on the other side. 8 months after the divorce, I received an unexpected email from Brooke. The subject line read, "I need to talk to you about Derek." My finger hovered over the delete button. I had no interest in hearing from the woman my ex-husband had cheated with. But curiosity won out and I opened it. "Camille, I know you have no reason to listen to me, but I need to tell you something. Derek lied to both of us. When we were together, he told me you knew about our relationship and were okay with it. He said you had an arrangement. I only recently found out the truth about how he spoke to you, what he said about men and cheating. I'm disgusted with myself for believing him. But that's not why I'm writing. Derek is in trouble at work. Serious trouble. He's been using company resources for personal expenses, falsifying reports, and apparently he did something illegal with client funds. The company is investigating and it looks like he might face criminal charges. I thought you should know in case he tries to contact you for money or help. He's desperate and desperate people do dangerous things. I'm sorry for my part in hurting you. Brooke." I read the email 3 times trying to decide how to feel. Vindication? Satisfaction? Concern? Mostly I felt detached. Derek's problems were no longer my problems. I forwarded the email to Patricia with a note, "FYI in case he tries anything." She called me within an hour. "This is serious," Patricia said. "Financial crimes, if that's what he's being investigated for, could mean prison time. I'm going to send a formal letter to his attorney making it clear that you have no financial connection to him anymore and are not liable for any of his actions." "Do you think he'll try to contact me?" I asked. "If he needs money, absolutely. Don't engage. If he shows up at your home or office, call the police immediately." I thanked Patricia and hung up, feeling uneasy. I didn't want Derek to go to prison. I didn't wish him harm. I just wanted him to leave me alone. 2 days later, Derek called from yet another number I didn't recognize. "Camille, thank God. Please don't hang up." I should have. Instead, I said, "What do you want, Derek?" "I'm in trouble. Real trouble. The company is accusing me of things I didn't do and I need help. I got Brooke's email. I know what you're being investigated for. It's all a misunderstanding. They're blowing everything out of proportion. I just need a good lawyer and I'm running out of money for legal fees. I thought maybe you could." "No. Please, Camille. I know I hurt you, but we were married for 7 years. That has to count for something." "It doesn't," I said firmly. "Your legal problems are not my responsibility. We're divorced. I don't owe you anything. This is who you really are, isn't it?" Derek's voice turned bitter. Cold. Selfish. "I gave you 7 years of my life and now when I need help, you turn your back. You gave me 7 years of manipulation and control," I corrected. "You cheated on me, lied to me, hid money from me and told me to accept it because every man cheats. Now you're facing consequences for your own actions and you want me to save you. I won't. You're making a mistake. If I go down, I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of person you really are." "Go ahead," I said calmly. "I have nothing to hide." "But Derek? Calling me and making threats? That's harassment. My lawyer will be sending you a cease and desist letter. Don't contact me again." I hung up and immediately called Patricia to tell her about the conversation. "I'll have the letter sent today," she said. "And Camille? You did the right thing. He's trying to manipulate you one last time. Don't fall for it." That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I regretted refusing to help Derek, but because I was processing the reality of who he'd always been. The financial crimes he was being investigated for didn't surprise me when I really thought about it. The way he'd hidden my inheritance, the way he'd controlled our finances, the way he'd lied so easily about his affair, it all pointed to a man who believed rules didn't apply to him. I had loved someone who never existed. The Derek I thought I'd married was a mask he wore, and underneath was someone capable of much worse than I'd imagined. Over the next few weeks, news of Derek's investigation became semi-public. It was covered in the local business section. Tech company executive under investigation for fraud. I received sympathetic messages from old acquaintances who remembered we'd been married. I politely thanked them and changed the subject. Nicole was more direct. "Are you okay? This has to be bringing up a lot of stuff." "I'm okay," I said, and I meant it. Mostly I'm grateful I got out when I did. Can you imagine if I'd still been married to him when this all came out? I could have been implicated. My business could have been destroyed. "Your grandmother was looking out for you," Nicole said softly. She really was. My business continued to grow despite, or maybe because of, my focus on it during this stressful time. Work was a welcome distraction from the drama of Derek's unraveling life. Janet's nonprofit campaign was particularly successful. We'd created a series of testimonial videos featuring women who had left abusive relationships and rebuilt their lives. My own story was featured, though I'd chosen to keep my face partially obscured and use only my first name. The response was overwhelming. Women reached out sharing their own stories, thanking us for showing that leaving was possible, that rebuilding was possible. One message in particular stuck with me. I saw your video and I cried. My husband tells me the same things yours did. That all men cheat, that I should just accept it, that I have nowhere to go. But seeing you now, successful and happy, it gives me hope. I'm starting to save money. I'm making a plan. Thank you for showing me it's possible. I showed the message to Janet during one of our meetings. This is the impact we wanted, she said, smiling. You're changing lives, Camille. We're changing lives, I corrected. 3 months after Derek's initial call for help, the investigation concluded. He was charged with embezzlement and fraud. The amounts were substantial, over $500,000 he'd taken from client accounts over several years. I read about it in the news with a strange sense of disconnection. This man I'd been married to, shared a home with, planned a future with, he'd been stealing money the entire time. Not just from his company but from people who trusted him. How had I not seen it? But I knew the answer. I had seen the signs. The way he always had cash when he said we were broke. The way he controlled all our finances. The way he lied so easily about his affair. I had seen it. I just hadn't wanted to believe it. Derek's sentencing was set for 6 months later. His lawyer negotiated a plea deal. 5 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 3, plus full restitution. I didn't attend the hearing. I had no desire to see him, no need for closure beyond what I'd already achieved by building my new life. But I did hear, through mutual acquaintances, that he tried to blame his actions on stress from our divorce. Even at his sentencing, he was trying to make himself the victim. The judge apparently wasn't impressed. According to reports, she'd pointed out that his crimes began long before his divorce, and that his continued attempts to avoid responsibility only demonstrated his lack of remorse. 5 years. Derek would spend 5 years in prison for what he'd done. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, no sadness. Just a profound sense of relief that I had gotten out when I did. That evening, I sat in my apartment with a glass of wine, reflecting on the past year. I had left Derek because of his affair and his belief that I should accept it. But the affair had been the least of his problems. Derek was a man who believed he was entitled to whatever he wanted. Other women, other people's money, a wife who would stay no matter how he treated her. And for a while he'd gotten away with all of it. But not anymore. His life had unraveled completely while mine had flourished. Not because I'd sought revenge or tried to destroy him, but because I'd focused on building something better for myself. Patricia called as I was getting ready for bed. I thought you should know, she said. Derek's attorney contacted me. He wanted to know if you would consider writing a letter to the judge on Derek's behalf, asking for leniency. Absolutely not. That's what I told him. I also reminded him that you have a cease and desist order against Derek contacting you, and that extends to attempts at contact through his legal representation. Thank you, Patricia. For everything. You're welcome. And Camille? You did good. You got out at exactly the right time. After we hung up, I stood at my window looking out at the Seattle skyline. Somewhere out there, Derek was probably sitting in a cell, finally facing real consequences for his actions. But I wasn't thinking about Derek. I was thinking about the woman who'd left him, terrified and uncertain, nearly a year ago. I was thinking about how far she'd come. How far I'd come. Derek had said every man cheats. He believed women had no choice but to accept whatever men did to them. He'd been wrong on both counts. Not every man cheated. But more importantly, every woman had the choice to leave when she wasn't treated with respect. And every woman had the power to build something better on the other side. I had proven it. My business was thriving. My life was full. My future was bright. Derek's unraveling wasn't my victory. My rebuilding was. And that was the best revenge of all. 1 year after leaving Derek, I stood in the lobby of my new office building, waiting for the architect who would be renovating the space. Elevation Consulting had grown enough that I needed a real office, not just my apartment and co-working spaces. The building was in a revitalized part of Seattle, all exposed brick and large windows. Exactly the kind of space I'd always wanted. Camille Jackson, a voice said behind me. I turned to see a man about my age with warm brown eyes, wearing a casual blazer over a button-down shirt. He had an easy smile that reached his eyes. "That's me. You must be Jordan?" "Jordan Price, yes. Thank you for choosing our firm." He shook my hand, his grip confident but not aggressive. "Should we take a look at the space?" As we walked through the empty office, Jordan asked thoughtful questions about my vision. What kind of work did I do? How did I want clients to feel when they entered? What was my budget? Unlike Derek, who had always talked over me or dismissed my ideas as impractical, Jordan listened. He took notes. He asked follow-up questions that showed he was actually paying attention. "I love the exposed brick," I said, running my hand along the wall. "I want to keep as much of the original character as possible while making it feel modern and professional." "I can absolutely work with that," Jordan said, sketching quick drawings in his notebook. "We could do a mix of preserved original features and clean contemporary elements. Would you want an open floor plan or more defined spaces?" We spent 2 hours discussing possibilities. Jordan's enthusiasm was infectious, and I found myself getting excited about details I hadn't even considered. Lighting fixtures, flooring materials, the placement of a small kitchen area. "I'll have preliminary designs for you by next week," Jordan said as we wrapped up. "But I have to say, I'm excited about this project. You have a clear vision, which makes my job so much easier." "I've spent the past year figuring out exactly what I want," I said. "In all areas of my life." Something in my tone made Jordan look at me more closely. "That sounds like there's a story there." "There usually is," I said with a slight smile. Jordan's firm sent over the preliminary designs 3 days later, and they were perfect. He'd captured exactly what I wanted. Professional but warm, modern but with character. Over the next 2 months, as the renovation progressed, Jordan and I met regularly to discuss the project. Our conversations gradually expanded beyond work. I learned he had been married briefly in his 20s, a relationship he'd left when he realized his ex-wife was more interested in his potential income than in him as a person. She wanted me to give up architecture and go into real estate development, Jordan explained during one of our site visits. Said there was more money in it, but I love what I do. I love creating spaces that matter to people. My ex-husband was the opposite. I found myself sharing. He wanted me to make my career smaller so his could feel bigger. "That's not a partnership," Jordan said. "That's someone wanting an accessory, not a partner." I appreciated his directness, the way he understood without me having to explain everything. As the renovation neared completion, Jordan invited me to coffee to go over the final details. "Full disclosure," he said as we sat in a cafe near my new office. "This is partly about work, but I also just enjoy talking to you." I felt a flutter of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Interest. Possibility. "I enjoy talking to you too," I admitted. "I don't want to make things weird, especially since we're still working together," Jordan said carefully. "But when the project is finished, I'd like to take you to dinner. As a date, not as a client meeting." I considered this. A year ago, I would have said no automatically. I wasn't ready to trust anyone, wasn't ready to risk getting hurt again. But a year of therapy, of building my business, of learning who I was outside of my marriage to Derek, it had changed me, made me stronger, made me believe I deserved good things. "I'd like that," I said. "Once the office is done." Jordan's smile was genuine and sweet. "It's a date." The office renovation was completed 2 weeks later, and it exceeded my expectations. Jordan had created a space that felt uniquely mine, professional enough for client meetings but warm enough that I wanted to spend time there. I hired 2 full-time employees and expanded my services. Elevation Consulting was becoming exactly what I'd envisioned. A business that helped companies elevate their brand while I helped women find their own elevation out of difficult situations. Jordan and I had our first official date at a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. No pressure, no expectations, just 2 people getting to know each other. "So tell me," Jordan said over appetizers, "what made you start your own business?" I told him the abbreviated version. The divorce, the discovery of my grandmother's inheritance, the decision to build something of my own. "My ex-husband told me every man cheats and I should accept it," I said. That was his actual philosophy. So I showed him every woman can leave. Jordan set down his fork, his expression serious. "That's a remarkable story. And for the record, not every man cheats. Some of us actually believe in respect and honesty." "I'm starting to believe that again," I admitted. Our first date turned into a second, then a third. Jordan was everything Derek wasn't. Respectful, genuinely interested in my opinions, supportive of my career. He asked about my work not to criticize but because he actually cared. He also had boundaries. When I was stressed about a big project and started apologizing for being distracted, he stopped me. "You don't have to apologize for focusing on your work," he said. "Your career is important. I get that. We can have dinner another night." It was such a small thing, but it meant everything. Derek would have made me feel guilty for prioritizing work. Jordan simply understood. 3 months into dating, Jordan met Nicole. "I approve," Nicole whispered to me while Jordan was getting drinks at the bar. "He's actually nice. And he looks at you like you hung the moon." "It's still early," I cautioned. "I'm not rushing into anything." "I'm not saying marry him tomorrow," Nicole said. "I'm just saying it's okay to be happy. You deserve this, Camille." Later that night, Jordan walked me to my door. "I want you to know," he said, "I'm not trying to rush anything. I know you went through something difficult with your divorce. We can take this as slow as you need." I looked at this man who listened when I spoke, who supported my ambitions, who treated me with respect and kindness. This man who was nothing like Derek. "Thank you," I said. "That means a lot." He kissed me goodnight, gentle and respectful, then waited until I was safely inside before leaving. As I got ready for bed, I thought about how different this felt from my relationship with Derek. There was no constant need to prove myself, no walking on eggshells, no wondering if I was enough. Jordan liked me for who I was. My ambition didn't threaten him. My success didn't diminish him. My independence was attractive to him, not something he needed to control. This was what a healthy relationship felt like. My business continued to flourish. I was invited to speak at a women's conference about building a business after divorce. The speech was attended by over 200 women, and the response was overwhelming. Jordan came to support me, sitting in the audience and giving me a subtle thumbs up when I caught his eye during my talk. After the speech, women approached me with their own stories. So many of them were where I had been a year ago, trapped, scared, unsure if leaving was possible. "Seeing you up there, successful and confident," one woman said, tears in her eyes, "it gives me hope that I can do this too." "You can," I told her firmly. "It's hard and it's scary, but you can absolutely do this. Every woman can leave. Every woman can rebuild." That night, Jordan and I had dinner at my apartment. I was exhausted from the conference but buzzing with energy from the positive response. "You were amazing today," Jordan said. "The way you spoke to those women, you're changing lives, Camille." "I'm just sharing my story," I said, hoping it helps someone else find the courage to leave. "It's more than that. You're showing them what's possible on the other side." We talked late into the night about our hopes and fears, about the futures we were building. Jordan shared that he wanted to eventually start his own architecture firm, focusing on affordable housing projects. "I want to do work that matters," he said. "Not just design expensive homes for wealthy clients, but create spaces that help people." "That's exactly how I feel about my business," I said. "Making money is great, but making a difference matters more." As Jordan left that night, he paused at the door. "I'm falling for you," he said simply. "I wanted you to know that. No pressure, no expectations. Just the truth." My heart skipped. "I'm falling for you too," I admitted. He kissed me, and for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to believe in the possibility of love. Real love. The kind built on mutual respect and genuine partnership. The kind Derek had never been capable of giving me. Later, alone in my apartment, I thought about how far I'd come. A year ago, I had been devastated, terrified, uncertain if I'd made the right choice by leaving. Now, I had a thriving business, amazing friends, and the beginnings of a relationship with someone who valued me for exactly who I was. Derek had tried to make me believe I had no choice but to accept his behavior. That leaving would mean loneliness and struggle. He'd been wrong. So completely wrong. Leaving had been hard. But staying would have been impossible. And now, surrounded by people who respected me, doing work I loved, building a life I'd chosen, I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. Every woman can leave. And every woman can find happiness on the other side. I had proven it to myself. Now I was helping others see it too. And that felt like the greatest success of all. 18 months after I'd filed for divorce, I sat in Patricia's office going over the final details of a case I hadn't expected. Derek was suing me from prison. "He's claiming what?" I asked, certain I'd misheard. "He's claiming that because you built your business during your marriage and used knowledge gained while married to him, he deserves a portion of your business proceeds," Patricia explained, her voice tight with controlled anger. "We've been divorced for a year and a half. My business didn't exist when we were married." "I know. But he's found a lawyer willing to file the suit. Probably someone desperate for publicity. The good news is this is a frivolous case. The bad news is we still have to deal with it. I felt a familiar frustration rising. Even from prison, Derek was trying to control my life. Can he do this? Legally? Anyone can file a lawsuit, Patricia said. That doesn't mean they'll win. And he won't. But we need to respond, which means a court appearance. The court date was set for 2 months later. In the meantime, Derek's lawsuit was picked up by a few news outlets, framed as ex-husband sues successful businesswoman from prison. The publicity was awkward but ultimately worked in my favor. Women reached out in support, sharing stories of ex-partners who tried to claim credit for their success. My business actually gained clients from the exposure. Jordan was supportive through it all. This is ridiculous, he said when I told him about the lawsuit. He cheated on you, committed financial crimes, and now he wants to claim your success? The audacity. That's Derek, I said tiredly. He's never taken responsibility for anything in his life. The morning of the court hearing, I dressed carefully in a professional navy suit. Patricia met me at the courthouse steps. Remember, she said as we walked in, stay calm. Don't engage with Derek directly. Let me handle everything. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Derek was brought in wearing prison clothes, looking thinner than I remembered. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His lawyer, a young man who looked fresh out of law school, presented their case. Derek claimed that my business concepts were developed during our marriage, that he had supported my career, and that he deserved compensation. Patricia stood to respond, and I could see the judge, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes, lean forward with interest. Your Honor, Patricia began, this case is without merit for multiple reasons. First, Ms. Jackson's business, Elevation Consulting, was not conceived until after she left her marriage. The business was formed 3 months after she separated from Mr. Reynolds. She pulled out documents showing the date I'd filed my business license, months after I'd moved out. Second, far from supporting Ms. Jackson's career during their marriage, Mr. Reynolds actively discouraged it. Ms. Jackson has documentation of multiple lucrative contracts she was forced to decline because Mr. Reynolds didn't want her traveling or working late hours. Patricia presented emails and text messages I'd saved, Derek telling me to turn down projects, complaining when I worked too much. Third, and perhaps most importantly, Ms. Jackson built her business using inheritance money from her grandmother. Money Mr. Reynolds deliberately hid from her for 5 years. The judge's eyebrows rose at this. Your Honor, Derek's lawyer interrupted, my client acknowledges mistakes were made in the marriage, but... Mistakes. Patricia cut him off. Your client was convicted of embezzlement and fraud. He's currently serving a 5-year prison sentence. The mistakes we're discussing include hiding a substantial inheritance from his wife, cheating on her for 6 months, and telling her she should accept his infidelity because, and I quote, every man cheats. Several people in the courtroom gasped. Your Honor, Patricia continued, this lawsuit is a transparent attempt by Mr. Reynolds to claim ownership of his ex-wife's success. Success she achieved by leaving him and building a business on her own, using her own inheritance after he lied to her for years. This case should be dismissed immediately. Derek's lawyer tried to argue, but his points were weak. He kept circling back to the idea that marriage was a partnership and Derek deserved something. Finally, the judge held up her hand. I've heard enough. Mr. Reynolds, do you want to say anything? Derek stood and I braced myself. Your Honor, I made mistakes. I know that. But we were married for 7 years. I supported her, I provided for her, and now she's successful and I have nothing. It's not fair. You supported her? The judge repeated. Mr. Reynolds, according to these documents, you actively prevented your wife from taking career opportunities. You hid money from her. You cheated on her and told her to accept it. In what way did you support her? I meant financially. I paid the bills. With money you were stealing from your clients, the judge pointed out. Mr. Reynolds, this lawsuit is perhaps the most frivolous case I've seen in my 20 years on the bench. You are trying to claim ownership of success achieved by a woman who left you and rebuilt her life. You contributed nothing to that success. But Your Honor, I'm not finished. Your ex-wife left you because of your infidelity and your belief that she should accept disrespect. She used her own inheritance, money you tried to keep from her, to build a business. That business has nothing to do with you. Your attempt to claim otherwise is a final act of control over a woman who had the courage to leave you. The judge looked directly at me. Ms. Jackson, I'm dismissing this case with prejudice, meaning Mr. Reynolds cannot refile. Additionally, I'm awarding you court costs and attorney fees. Mr. Reynolds, you will be responsible for these expenses. Derek's face went red. That's not fair. She has money and I have nothing. You have nothing because of your own choices, the judge said sternly. You stole money, you betrayed your wife, and now you're facing the consequences. Ms. Jackson owes you nothing. This case is dismissed. The gavel came down with a sharp crack. Patricia and I walked out of the courtroom together. I felt lighter than I had in months. That was satisfying, Patricia admitted with a slight smile. Judge Morrison doesn't tolerate frivolous lawsuits. Thank you, I said. For everything. Not just today but for the past 2 years. You're the one who did the hard work, Patricia said. I just helped with the legal parts. You left a bad situation, built an amazing business, and now you've proven that Derek has no claim to any of it. That evening, Jordan took me out to celebrate. We went to a nice restaurant overlooking the water and he raised his glass in a toast. To justice, he said. And to you for never letting him win. I didn't win because I beat him in court, I said thoughtfully. I won because I built a life that has nothing to do with him. That's even better, Jordan agreed. As we ate dinner, I reflected on the judge's words. Derek had tried one final time to control me, to claim ownership of my success. And he'd failed. Not because I fought him, but because I'd built something entirely separate from him. Something that was undeniably, completely mine. My phone buzzed with messages from friends who'd heard about the case being dismissed. Nicole sent 3 celebration emojis. Janet from the nonprofit sent a message, never doubted you for a second. Even some of my clients reached out with congratulations and support. I realized something important. I had built a community. People who believed in me, supported me, celebrated my victories. The opposite of the isolation I'd felt in my marriage to Derek. What are you thinking about? Jordan asked. How different my life is now, I said. 2 years ago, I was trapped in a marriage with someone who told me every man cheats and I should accept it. Now I'm here with you, celebrating a court victory over his last attempt to control me. It feels surreal. You did that, Jordan said. You made the choice to leave, to fight, to build something better. With a lot of help, I added. With a lot of courage, Jordan corrected. Later that night, I stood in my apartment looking out at the Seattle skyline. Tomorrow I had a full day of client meetings. Next week I was speaking at another conference. Next month I was launching a mentorship program for women starting businesses after divorce. My life was full of purpose, success, and genuine happiness. Derek had tried to take credit for it. He'd failed. Because the truth was simple. Derek had nothing to do with my success. If anything, he'd been an obstacle I'd had to overcome. My success was mine. Built on my grandmother's love and foresight. Built on my own courage and determination. Built on the support of friends who believed in me. Derek was sitting in a prison cell, still trying to blame others for his problems, still trying to claim he deserved what others had earned. I was here, free, successful, and finally truly happy. The judge was right. I owed Derek nothing. Not my time, not my energy, and certainly not my success. Every woman can leave. And every woman can build something so completely her own that no one can ever take it away. I had proven it in the most absolute way possible. And that was worth more than any court victory. 2 years after leaving Derek, I stood at the front of a ballroom filled with 500 women, about to give the keynote speech at the largest women's business conference in the Pacific Northwest. My hands weren't shaking. My voice was steady. I felt completely at home in front of this audience. 2 years ago, I began, my husband told me every man cheats and I should just accept it. He believed I had no choice but to stay, no options but to tolerate his disrespect. The room was silent, everyone leaning forward. He was wrong. And today I'm here to tell you that if you're in a situation where someone is making you feel small, trapped, or powerless, you have more options than you think. Every woman can leave. Every woman can rebuild. Every woman can thrive. The applause was thunderous. After the speech, I was surrounded by women wanting to share their stories, ask questions, or simply thank me. One woman in particular caught my attention. I'm leaving my husband next week, she said quietly. I've been planning it for months. Your story gave me the courage to finally do it. You're going to be okay, I told her. More than okay. You're going to discover parts of yourself you forgot existed. I hope so, she said. I'm terrified. That's normal. I was terrified too. But being scared of change is better than being trapped in a situation that's slowly destroying you. She hugged me with tears in her eyes and walked away with her shoulders a little straighter. Elevation Consulting had grown beyond my wildest expectations. I now had a team of 6 employees, an office in a prime downtown location, and a waiting list of clients. We'd been featured in Forbes, Business Insider, and the Seattle Times. But more importantly, we'd helped launch 32 businesses owned by women who'd left difficult situations. 32 women who'd used our consulting services to build something of their own. That number meant more to me than any revenue figure. Jordan and I had been dating for over a year now, and it continued to be the healthiest relationship I'd ever had. He'd met my friends, I'd met his family, and we'd fallen into an easy rhythm of supporting each other's dreams without losing ourselves in the process. "I'm proud of you," he said one evening as we cooked dinner together in my apartment. "The conference speech, the business growth, you're changing lives." "We're changing lives," I corrected, gesturing between us. "You've helped me believe I deserve good things." "You've always deserved good things," Jordan said, kissing my forehead. "I just helped you see it." That same week, I received an unexpected email. It was from Derek's mother, Susan, whom I hadn't spoken to since shortly after the divorce. "Dear Camille, I hope this email finds you well. I want to apologize for how Derek treated you during your marriage. I suspected he was being unfaithful, but I didn't say anything and I regret that deeply. I've been following your success through mutual friends and the news. I'm so proud of what you've built. You deserved so much better than what my son gave you. Derek will be eligible for parole next year. I wanted you to know in case he tries to contact you. Please don't feel obligated to respond to him. You owe him nothing. I hope you're happy, Camille. You deserve all the happiness in the world. With love, Susan." I read the email twice, surprised by the emotion it stirred in me. Susan had always been kind to me during the marriage, but she'd never acknowledged Derek's faults. I wrote back, "Dear Susan, thank you for reaching out. I appreciate your apology, though I know it wasn't easy to write. I'm happy. Genuinely happy. I've built a life I'm proud of, surrounded by people who respect and support me. Thank you for the warning about Derek's parole. I have no intention of speaking with him if he reaches out. That chapter of my life is closed. I hope you're doing well too. Best, Camille." Sending that email felt like closing one final door. Susan had been the last connection to my old life with Derek, and now even that was gently, kindly severed. A month later, I received news that Derek had been denied parole. According to the brief article I found online, the parole board cited his lack of remorse and his continued attempts to blame others for his actions, including the frivolous lawsuit against me. He would serve his full sentence. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication. Derek had simply become irrelevant to my life. Meanwhile, my relationship with Jordan continued to deepen. He'd started his own architecture firm, focusing on affordable housing projects just as he'd always dreamed. We worked side by side, both building businesses we believed in, both supporting each other's success without competition or jealousy. One evening, 6 months after the conference speech, Jordan took me to the rooftop of a building he was designing. The views of Seattle were spectacular, the city lights twinkling below us. "I wanted to show you something," he said, leading me to a model of the building. "This is going to be a mixed-income housing development. Affordable apartments, market-rate units, and community spaces. It's the biggest project my firm has taken on." "Jordan, this is incredible," I said, studying the model. "You're going to change lives with this." "That's the plan," he said, then paused. "Camille, watching you build your business, seeing you help so many women, it's inspired me to take bigger risks, to believe I can make a real difference." "You've done the same for me," I said. "You've shown me what a real partnership looks like. Equal, respectful, supportive." "I love you," Jordan said simply. "I've loved you for a while now, but I wanted to be sure you were ready to hear it." "I love you too," I said, and I meant it with my whole heart. He kissed me as the sun set over Seattle, and I thought about how different this felt from my relationship with Derek. This was built on mutual respect, genuine affection, and a shared belief in each other's worth. This was real love. The kind my grandmother had wanted me to find when she left me that inheritance and that letter about having choices. Later that night, back at my apartment, I pulled out my grandmother's letter and read it again. "Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you're trapped. You're not. You never are." She'd been right. I hadn't been trapped even when I felt like I was. I'd always had choices. I just needed the courage and resources to make them. And now, 2 years after making the hardest choice of my life, I was thriving in ways I'd never imagined possible. My business was successful. My relationships were healthy. My future was bright. Derek had said every man cheats and every woman should accept it. I'd proven him wrong on multiple levels. Not every man cheated, Jordan was proof of that. But more importantly, no woman had to accept disrespect, no matter what anyone told her. Every woman had the power to leave. Every woman had the ability to rebuild. Every woman deserved to thrive, not just survive. I had lived it. I was living it. And through my work, I was helping other women see it too. That was success. That was victory. That was happiness. And it was all mine. 3 years after walking out of my marriage, I stood backstage at the Women's Empowerment Summit in San Francisco, about to address an audience of 3,000 women. 3,000. The number still seemed impossible. "You're going to be amazing," Jordan said, squeezing my hand. He'd flown down to support me, just as he had for every major milestone over the past 2 years. "What if I forget what I want to say?" "Then you speak from your heart like you always do," he said simply. The stage manager signaled it was time. I walked out to thunderous applause, the lights bright and warm on my face. "Good morning," I said, and the room settled into attentive silence. "My name is Camille Jackson, and 3 years ago my husband told me every man cheats and I should accept it." I let that sentence hang in the air for a moment. He expected me to stay. He believed I had nowhere to go, no resources, no options. He was so confident in his control over me that he didn't even bother to hide his affair well. He thought I would discover it, cry, forgive him, and move on. Because in his worldview, that's what women did. I paused, scanning the faces in the audience. So many women nodding in recognition. I left. I took the inheritance my grandmother had left specifically for me, money he'd hidden from me for 5 years, and I rebuilt my entire life. I started a business. I found genuine happiness. I created a future that has absolutely nothing to do with him. More applause. But here's what I've learned in the 3 years since I left. Leaving isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning. Yes, every woman can leave. But more importantly, every woman can thrive on the other side. I shared statistics about my business, the women we'd helped, the economic impact of supporting women starting businesses after leaving difficult situations. But more than numbers, I shared stories. The woman who'd left her emotionally abusive husband and now ran a successful catering company. The woman who'd escaped a marriage where her partner controlled all the finances and now taught financial literacy to other women. The woman who'd been told she was too old to start over and now had a thriving consulting practice at age 56. Every single one of these women was told in one way or another that leaving was impossible, that they should stay, that they should accept less than they deserved. Every single one of them proved those voices wrong. I talked about my grandmother's letter, about the importance of having resources and support systems. I talked about the practical steps I'd taken, consulting a lawyer, documenting everything, securing separate finances. But most importantly, I said nearing the end of my speech, I want you to know that if you're in a situation where someone is making you feel small, trapped, or powerless, you're not. You have more strength than you know. More options than you've been led to believe. More support available than you might think. I paused, looking out at 3,000 faces. My ex-husband believed every man cheats. He believed women have no choice but to accept whatever men do. He was wrong. Not every man cheats. I know this because I'm in a relationship now with someone who actually values respect and partnership. But even if his philosophy had been true, it wouldn't have mattered. Because every woman has the right to decide what she will and won't accept in her life. The applause started, but I held up my hand. Every woman can leave. Every woman can rebuild. Every woman can thrive. I did it. The women I work with did it. And if you need to, you can do it too. Your story doesn't end with staying in a situation that diminishes you. Your story begins when you have the courage to walk away and build something better. The standing ovation lasted for 5 minutes. Women approached me afterward with tears in their eyes, business cards, stories of their own. One woman in particular stood out. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with a determination in her eyes that reminded me of myself 3 years ago. "I'm leaving tomorrow," she said. "I've been planning it for 6 months. I have money saved, a place to stay, a lawyer ready. Your story helped me believe I could do this." "You can," I told her firmly. "It's going to be hard. There will be days you doubt yourself. But on the other side is a life where you get to be yourself completely, without someone telling you to be smaller." She hugged me and I felt the weight of responsibility and privilege, being able to help other women find their own strength. After the conference, Jordan and I had dinner at a restaurant overlooking the bay. "That was incredible," he said. "Watching you speak to all those women, seeing the impact you're having, I'm in awe of you, Camille. 3 years ago, I was sleeping on Nicole's couch wondering if I'd made a huge mistake," I said. "Now I'm here. Sometimes it still feels surreal. You've earned every bit of this success, Jordan said. And I have something to ask you. He pulled out a small box and my heart skipped. Camille, I love you. I love your strength, your compassion, your ambition. I love how you've built this incredible life and how you're helping other women do the same. I want to be part of that life permanently if you'll have me. He opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant ring. Will you marry me? I looked at this man who had shown me what real partnership looked like, who supported my dreams without feeling threatened, who celebrated my success without needing to diminish it, who understood that my independence was what made me strong, not something to be controlled. Yes, I said, and I meant it with everything in me. Yes, I'll marry you. As Jordan slipped the ring on my finger, I thought about how far I'd come. From a woman who believed she had no choice but to accept her husband's betrayal, to a woman building a business empire and helping others do the same. From someone who felt trapped and powerless to someone who stood on stages and inspired thousands. My phone buzzed with a message from Nicole. OMG, you're engaged. I'm crying. Word traveled fast. Messages poured in from friends, colleagues, clients. Janet from the nonprofit sent a champagne emoji and, congratulations to you both. That night, back in our hotel room, I stood at the window looking out at San Francisco Bay. Jordan wrapped his arms around me from behind. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm thinking about my grandmother, I said. She left me that inheritance so I would have choices. So I could leave if I needed to. She never got to meet you, but I think she'd be happy to know I found someone who gives me more choices, not fewer. That's all I want, Jordan said. To be your partner in every sense of the word. To support you, not control you. The next morning, I received an email from a woman who had attended my speech. Dear Camille, I left my husband 2 years ago after reading an article about your story. Yesterday, I signed the lease on my first office space for my own business. I wanted you to know that your courage gave me courage. Thank you for showing me that every woman can leave and every woman can thrive. With gratitude, Michelle. I showed the email to Jordan over breakfast. This is what it's all about, I said. One woman helping another see what's possible. That's your legacy, Jordan said. Not just your business success, but the ripple effect of all the women you've helped. Flying back to Seattle, I reflected on the past 3 years. Derek was serving the remainder of his prison sentence, irrelevant to my life. My business had exceeded every goal I'd set. My relationship with Jordan was built on everything my marriage to Derek had lacked. Respect, equality, genuine partnership. But most importantly, I had helped over 100 women leave difficult situations and start businesses of their own. 100 women who had been told they were trapped, who believed they had no options, who thought leaving was impossible. 100 women who proved that every woman can leave. Every woman can rebuild. Every woman can thrive. That was the real victory. Not beating Derek in court, not business success, not even my own happiness, though all of those mattered. The real victory was in the ripple effect. Each woman I helped went on to help others. Each story shared gave courage to someone else. Each successful business inspired another woman to try. Derek had believed every man cheats and women have to accept it. His philosophy was built on a foundation of control and disrespect. I had proven him wrong in every possible way. Not every man cheats. Not every woman stays. And every woman who leaves can build something beautiful on the other side. I had lived it. I was living it. And I would spend the rest of my life helping other women see it too. 3 years ago, I walked out of a house I'd shared with a man who didn't respect me. I drove away with nowhere to go but forward. Now, I had a thriving business, genuine love, a community of women supporting each other, and a future full of possibility. Derek had said every man cheats. I had shown him that every woman can leave. And that made all the difference.